So I have to try to capture these rants. You can call it a rant if you want. I'm just talking to you. That's all I'm doing. I call them rants too. I gotta capture them when they come because they're very fleeting. You know, maybe it's the coffee kicking in or something. But you know, so this is the one I'm gonna present to you now as best as I can. Now is the time. Now is the time. Being able to do something like this. It doesn't have to be a shanty boat trip. It doesn't have to be the Great Loop. It doesn't have to be a river trip. But if one of your dreams is to kind of roam and wander and explore and do it at a slow pace and, you know, look around this beautiful country, I differentiate between our country and our government, okay? So there's an old bumper sticker that I grew up with in a little hippie town in Northern California that I saw quite a bit on the back of old rusty Datsun bumpers that said, "I love my country, but I fear my government." And it's true to this day. And that's my sentiment. So anytime you hear me talk about, you know, this wonderful country of ours, I'm a type of patriot, but I'm a patriot to the actual country, the landmass, and also to God. Okay? Not the government. It is corrupt as corruption gets, okay? And the bot is probably watching me right now and downgrading my channel as we speak, okay? So, if you want to do something like this, if you're watching my channel, and I've gotten a lot of feedback in the comments and such, and thank you, by the way, I read all my comments. I read every comment that comes in. I heart it, and you know I've read it, and I've thought about it. I can't answer all of them when there's a lot of them. If you do want me to, you can just present it in the form of a question, like Jeopardy, and then I know it's to, you know, something like that. But anyways, let me get to my point. Things are changing quick, and things always change, and people argue that, you know, a lot. Well, things have always changed, and things have always been hard, things have always been bad, there's always been corruption. Yes, but it's exponential now, and we are in a type of transition in this country and world, okay, where things are going to happen really fast, and there's reasons for it. I already can tell I'm going to put this on the backup channel, so I'll just mention some of them. I'm a big believer. I notice things, okay, and like the New World Order, okay. We'll just give it a generic term, and you know the New World Order is taking over. One world government, digital currency, the mark of the beast system, control, tyranny, global tyranny. All that stuff's trying to take hold right now. Now, whether it'll actually happen is another, you know, thing entirely, because we might end up fighting back, you know, or God will probably intervene when the time is right, you know, when he wants to. But, you know, all things kind of the momentum that we have now, things are going to get more controlled. They're creating justifications to take away anything resembling freedom, and they're also brainwashing entire generations coming up to not value freedom at all, okay? Anything that we, you know, call freedom. Aldous Huxley is like famously, you know, said, we will create a human, it's paraphrasing, but we'll create a human that would be attracted to tyranny when he should be repulsed by it, you know, something like that. I'm going to try to switch hands because my arm's getting sore. I've been working out so much with my 15-pound weights. So now we still have some freedom. You know, now we still have some time. Now we still have access to fairly affordable, you know, fuel and you know, all the makings of it can still be done. But I promise you, it's not going to always be like this. It's coming quick. You just search your feelings, Luke. That's, you know, that Star Wars said, okay? Like, you know it's coming. And for those that are putting it off, I'm not trying to put any panic in you, you know, or anyone listening to this. But I am trying to say that we just, you know, we can't wait too long. I'm 51 years old. I did realize, you know, pretty early that, like, if I waited till a traditional retirement, now, that was never my path to begin with. I can hardly hold a real job. You know, it's always been like that. So I never would have had a retirement, you know, per se. But I've always had a wanderlust, and I always want to explore, and I want to see the world. So I figured out a way to do it, and that's what you're seeing right now. And I knew that it was going to be taken away from us eventually. And so right now what's happening in a way is that Americans, let's just keep it in this country, though it's a global phenomenon in one way, shape, or form. But Americans, us, when I say native, that gets really confusing because, Native Americans. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about like multi-generational Americans here in this country, like me, like probably you. We're being replaced. It's just, the way it is. Like, the global elite see us as interchangeable biological androids, really, slaves. I mean, the biggest constant in history is slavery. If you think about it, this is such an anomaly in time where we've had such unprecedented freedom and prosperity. It's just the truth. But since we've lived in it in our entire lives, we don't have a reference point that we can personally relate to understand the relativity of freedom. We have a lot of freedom right now, but it is going away. It's not the norm. And we are being replaced by basically new citizens, global citizens, third world folks. God bless them. I see footage sometimes and, of an overcrowded boat or, a long line of people crossing the border or something like that. And I will just sometimes, I'll pause it or I'll look at that picture and I'll just focus in on one person. And I'll say, that one person is a human just like me and just like you. And they've had a long life of experiences from day one. And they have a dream and they have a goal and they want a better life, and you can't blame them. And I would do the same thing and you would do the same thing. But it can be easy to resent people that kind of come in and interlope on our good thing. And that's what's happening, but it's not their fault on a personal level. And it's going to displace us, okay? So that is going to require a major adjustment in our expectations and our lifestyles and what we expect to get from this life in this country. I'm being very broad here because it means something different to everybody. If you're in a good position where you have, a good job and good pay and a good home and this and that is awesome. And it's very more than likely you are already in a position to have some freedom. A couple videos ago, I showed you guys some homeless that we came across in La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is very surprising. And that's becoming more and more common. I still have family back in California, and I have gotten some, reports. Plus, I watch, alternative media and, media that's actually trying to tell the truth. And they talk about all this. You won't get this on the shiny box, the legacy media. But there is, increasing amounts of homelessness. A lot of it is the mental illness that's coming from trying to interact in this crazy life, and people who, one way, shape, or form, are kind of breaking under the pressure. Drugs, hardcore drugs have been introduced to this country that I probably can't even say, or it'll trace back to my channel, but you know what they are. And it's a crisis. There's no other word for it. And so to try to stay on my point here is, now is the time. If your version of freedom, and I say this a lot in my various attempts at trying to talk about this, not everybody's values are floating down a river or sleeping in the trees like Scooter Tramp Scotty, or you've seen myself do it. And I appreciate that. I accept that. I know that. I try not to project my values onto others, though there's always a little bit of that. And I would say that if you're watching this, I can just kind of assume that we have very similar kind of values and what we call like freedom and a good life and a good lifestyle. And so now is the time. Now is the time. Not a year from now, not 5 years from now, certainly not 10 years from now. I know I'm not one of those doom and gloomers that are like, the end of the world is coming, and be prepared. But the end of an era is coming, and it's very obvious. And what it's going to turn into, unless we have some kind of renaissance, which you ask me, I just don't think it's there. I think that the people who are guiding this new transition have thought it through. They have learned from thousands of years of history, and every move they're playing chess while the public is playing checkers. And there will be a 11th hour, kind of meltdown, and there are going to be lots of people who resist, but it's going to get ugly, and there's going to be a complete grid down for a while, and traveling, going from one region to another, is going to be difficult to impossible, and we're going to have to adjust down to kind of just where we live. Like 100 years ago, most people 100 years ago never traveled more than 100 miles from where they were born. Look that up. It's an interesting statistic that says a lot more than it appears. This whole being able to kind of fly off to fill in the blank or travel long distances, again, is a big anomaly, and we should take advantage of it while we can, in my opinion. So, okay, guys, thanks for listening. We're going to continue on down the river. I'll see you over on Backwires and Back Roads, because I would never dare put this over there. All right, I'll catch you soon.